Hello, and welcome to the Future Proof Podcast. This is our bi-monthly podcast where we chat about stuff we're working on and anything cool we're planning. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Gregory. And we have done a release. We've released all of the releases.
All the things. Of all the things.
Yep.
When we last recorded, the Rosette Diceless Companion was almost finished being released. And I think maybe by the time we had published, stuff had kind of been tidied up. But just want to say officially, all versions of the Rosette Diceless Companion that are going to exist in the world, no, I'm kidding, they're all out, as well as the original Diceless. So I think Kindle was one that was still kind of drifting out there with its weird approval processes and fixes and stuff. So DriveThruRPG, Amazon, and itch.io all have all versions of the book they're going to have. So it's very exciting to be able to like close that out and say like, woo, just, put a pin in it for a little while until we get to the other Rosettes that do involve dice. But that's a while down the road.
So yeah, Rosette Diceless and the Companion you can get in a bundle. There's an updated version of Rosette Diceless. And yeah, physical, PDF, ebook.
Yep. So we said we had released all the things. So we've also released a couple things on Exploit Zero Day.
Yeah, so Exploit Zero Day, it's our puzzle game. You play it in the browser. You can make your own puzzles, and every puzzle that you're hacking is one that every puzzle you're solving is a computer system you're hacking into. And also, when you make a system, you're making a puzzle for other people to play. And in the fiction of the game, you're kind of contributing to this weird, I guess, insurance fraud thing that these hacktivists are doing in order to kind of drain money away from an evil corporation in order to help other people. And we wanted to encourage making systems, in part because it's fun, and in part because like that helps keep the game going, where people are making puzzles for other people, and it kind of lets us see what do people consider interesting about puzzles. If they come up with some concept, can we incorporate that inspiration into our own work? All that. So we have released a job, which is like a quest in the game, to make yourself a home cluster. And it starts off with saying, hey, make a real little cluster of puzzles. And then once you've done that, it gives you a little reward and is like, and hey, when you get around to it, make an even bigger one and you'll get another reward. And so it's just a little encouragement and reminder for folks to make their own stuff. It's totally optional. I don't think it unlocks anything.
No, not yet.
But it gives a little bit of incentive to, if you haven't checked out puzzle creation or you didn't realize that you could do it, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, so it's sort of a tutorial in addition to being a cool feature of the game that we wanted to kind of show off. I think one of the reasons that people wander away from Exploit Zero Day is that there are lulls in which people are not making puzzles and not making clusters. And so by having sort of a job to encourage people to do so, and they will do so at their own pace, it hopefully, helps incentivize folks to come back and see what's new.
Yeah. And we always do it at a slow pace, but we've recently put out a new puzzle cluster of our own as part of a job in Headless Swarm.
That's right. So Headless Swarm, our ongoing sort of quasi-early access. I mean, I guess it's early access, even if we don't call it that. Our paid season of story for Exploit Zero Day we'll have a total of about sort of 9 main jobs. And we've talked about how we were pretty close to finishing the 8th one. And finishing the 8th means that we released the 7th. So job 7, which is actually called RFC 1149. I'll leave that to listeners to Google and or maybe check the show notes, is out and available for play. So Headless Swarm, like I said, it's our, everything in EZD is free except for this paid season of story so far. And Headless Swarm is about $5. US dollars, and is an entire story arc. And so we will be starting on the development of the 9th and final job soon, at which point we'll be wrapping this puppy up and putting a bow on it and calling it done. So that's very exciting.
Job 7 takes place in an airport. It's you're working on hacking into an airport's traffic control and otherwise systems in order to protect it from a drone attack.
Yeah. So yeah, if you play Exploit Zero Day, you already have kind of an invite from the main person who sort of runs these jobs or sort of introduces you to this dilemma. You already have a job in your inbox for that. You can just buy it right off the site. You know, Exploit Zero Day is not on Steam or anything like that. So everything is on exploitzeroday.com.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked it out yet, there's an entire season of free story that you can play through. There's a whole bunch of story and puzzles and so on to solve. And you can use that to decide if you want more and want to play Headless Swarm.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good writing, I think we did on that one.
I think we did good, yeah.
And then also on the Exploit Zero Day front, so we did something behind the scenes that was a pretty hefty lift. Like we were planning for this. I was like, oh, we haven't done like any like huge releases on EZD since the last podcast, but that is because we have been working on a little bit of a doozy of a thing to implement and test.
Yeah, this one's big. If we did it right, you will notice no difference. And it's entirely under the hood, but it's an important thing. So the techie people will know, in the audience will know how much of a big deal a kind of major schema refactoring is.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try and make it not too technical and hard to get, but in Exploit Zero Day, we've got, and this is pretty typical of an architecture for a lot of things, we have the concept of a user and the concept of an account. And so we've got, like, in the code, we've got users who are like, each player of the game has a user and an account. And the user is where we should be storing the data about, like, what's your password? Or, you know, we don't store your password, but how do we figure out if you've got the right password? And, you know, are you able to log in via Twitter and stuff like that? And then the account model is where we should have always been storing kind of game-specific things that don't have to do with, like, logging in and managing who you are, but instead are like, what's your handle in the game and what puzzles do you have?
It's like a profile on another site, right? Like often it would be like, what's your display name, right? Like that kind of like user-facing public key sorts of stuff. In fact, it is the stuff that other users see about you.
Yeah. Theoretically, I think nothing in your user should be visible to anyone. It's only your account that the rest of the game is dealing with. And we just muddied the waters a little bit when we were initially developing the game. We just kind of didn't quite have the full vision of things. And so in some cases, like the badges you'd earned were earned by the account, whereas the jobs that you did, that you were employed in order to earn those badges, the user was employed in instead of the account.
Yeah.
And so there are all sorts of places where we were using users when we knew we'd known for a while we should have been using accounts, but switching that stuff over is just a pain. Mm-hmm. It's a whole lot of work just to make sure we cover all of the bases, make sure everywhere where it says .user, it says .account instead. All that stuff. There's a huge database migration that's required. We think...
It's very scary.
Yeah, we think we've got all that squared away. Our test environment is working fine. And so sometime soon, maybe like tomorrow as of recording, maybe
or Saturday.
But sometime within the next week or 3, we're going to take a big backup of everything, make sure we've got everything stored away so that we can just restore back to where we were. And then we're gonna run this, and if everything goes well, no one will ever notice because we'll have hooked everything up properly. And I think the only difference is like there's 1 or 2 places in the code that if you like look into the source code, you'll notice that a different alphanumeric string was used to represent you than it was before. So yeah,
kind of one of the reasons we went ahead and tackled this Because on the one hand, you could say, like, well, we'll just keep going forward the way we should go, right? Like, put things on account on the profile kind of side of things. But as we're looking at EZD, like, this is kind of our final alpha set of changes. And that is a heavy lift of something to do in a beta phase. Just sort of psychologically, when you think of what happens in an alpha version of a game versus what happens in a beta version of developing something.
Yeah, if we're adding a whole lot of new features with stuff still messy.
Exactly. So kind of going into beta with a clean slate on some of this technical debt that we know how to clear up and that we know exist. Like, so there's some that we don't know. We're going to find something, or something that, that's not worth tackling. But, so yeah, it's kind of a relief to have it done. It'll feel even better once it's released and, we haven't missed anything major like forum sign-ins or something. Like, I don't know, there's a long regression checklist that I work through as a tester when I'm testing. So hopefully we caught everything, and hopefully that will go out soon, possibly after or before this podcast makes it out.
Yeah. And if you are playing Exploit Zero Day and you run into something totally weird that you can't figure out why it's doing it, let us know. info@futureproofgames.com. Or there's a report bug button on every page. There's like a little bug symbol you can click. I think it's down in the footer, and it's either in the footer or at the top. It's on one of those things, and just report that and let us know, and we'll get that fixed.
Yeah, thank you if you do. I mean, we hope you don't, but we do appreciate bug reports quite a bit. So yeah, so lots of EZD talk this time. That's our focus after Rosette Diceless Companion. So here we are. But you can find all of our stuff over at futureproofgames.com. We're over on Twitter at PlayFutureproof and on YouTube as Futureproof Games, which is where we archive our Twitch streams. There's also a video version of this, which you may or may not be observing now. You can hit us up with questions or comments over on the blog or anywhere on social media. Our theme music is Juparo by Broke for Free, which is used with permission.